I want to tell you all about this engine. This 2025 Ram 3500. This is probably my 10th take. I'm trying to stay as focused as possible on this engine. I try to make short videos, it just doesn't work. So button down, it's gonna be a long video. It's just gonna be a long video. That's just the truth of it. So in this video, I specifically want to talk about the engine. I'll do different, sorted out, dissected, about other components. This truck has 39,000 miles. And I want to talk about this engine. As a guy that had quite a few 4th gens and got into the 5th gen, or the 19s through 24s from day one, I just did not like that engine, the way it sounded. I was just not fond of the way that engine sounded and how inconsistent it sounded. So I want to talk about the whole 9 yards about this engine. So I'll veer off a little bit about the after treatment. Not a whole lot. Well, let me just throw this out there. After treatment's pretty stout, but it annoys me how long it takes to burn it all off. That's my gripe about it, but it's a pretty good system. I like it far more than the 4th and 5th gens have to offer, because 4th and 5th gens are very similar after treatment. This after treatment's completely different, and I like it. I like it a lot. Just wish it could be a little bit more aggressive on its regens, that's all. It'll still get the job done, but it just takes its precious time. So 39,000 miles on this truck. So is it 390? No, but as a guy that's mechanically involved in, is like I deal with a lot of mechanics. Okay, besides my trucking, 1 and 2 trucking, I also run a diesel shop, and we get involved in a lot of different stuff. My shop doesn't necessarily only work on pickups. It just works on quite a few different diesels. So there you have it. This engine, first and foremost, from day one, the way this engine sounded, the way it fires up, the way it idles, the way it runs under load, I love it. Nothing like the 19s, okay? My 19 from day one, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a rough ride. Well, guess what? 19 and 20 and 21 wasn't as bad as 22. My OG, or my regulars, know, model year 22 handed my rear end to me. Out of the 8 trucks, model year 22, 7 of them I'm grenaded. So, I knew it was coming. I just didn't know that it would be that bad, because my 19, I did not like the way that engine sounded. Not just my 19. Rest of the 19s I bought in the fleet. It's just, there's nothing wrong. It's just, as a guy that understands mechanics and consistency, if it's always banging the same, rattling the same, good old 12 valve or 24 valve Cummins, it's always loud and obnoxious, or the 12 valve is always soft, but it's pretty loud. Consistency is key, right? In all aspects of life here, even the way your engine sounds. So when you have fluctuation, when you have inconsistency, it's a big red flag. And that's what the 19s were. And that was my biggest gripe with the 19. It was just kind of like, it fluctuated, and I hated that about it. So this truck is consistent. This engine is consistent. The power delivery is very refined. It's good power. I just really hope either the after treatment or aftermarket gets to it, or Ram gets their big boy pants on and gets this done, because it's a disgrace. There's the fundamentals, the physical aspect of this engine is leaps and bounds better than the predecessor. So that 24 engine is nothing like this 25. I love the mechanical design of this. That has so much to offer, and Ram is just barely tapping into it. So once the aftermarket get their hands on it, like any engine, sooner or later they will. They'll come around. They'll do their thing. I also believe Ram is, geared up, and they're gonna, Ram's gonna really start turning up the dial here. This thing isn't phased at all at the power levels that it's at right now. I mean, and the reason I've spoke about this in my other video, when you're towing heavy and you're going up a hill, and this thing's really not grabbing the heat and the oil. It's really not doing a whole lot. It's generating more heat by being retarded than it is by being advanced. And coming from a guy that's very nitpicky about his equipment, you could tell this engine's nowhere near its limits now. Like the Ford You know, the Duramax is in the sweet middle, but the Ford, it's pushing it, and you could hear it. You can see it in the oil. The oil skyrockets pretty quick when you load it well. And guys, I'm talking like, you know, max capacity, up steep grades, grade after grade, you know, or, you know, Nevada deserts, and, you know, it all equates, and as much as you want to accept or deny something, the facts are there, and there's no way of ignoring them. So this engine has far more capability, and once the aftermarket comes around and unlocks this thing and they start doing their thing, it's gonna be money. I will step aside for 20 seconds and say the wiring on this truck is pile of junk. There's so much interference. Depends what day, depends what mood in that day the truck wakes up. Some days it's flawless, other days this thing just goes haywire. Okay, back to the engine. So, as far as sound, it's phenomenal. As far as just hardware, mechanical aspect, and the way the engineers design this engine, phenomenal. This is the next banger. I mean, this engine is going to be something. It's going to be something else. Just watch. Once they iron out these little quirks in it with the electrical side, they'll turn up the dial on this engine. And they can, because what backs up the engine is the transmission. I mean, the engine, you know, it's all about putting that power down. You could have the best engine, but if your tranny sucks, that power isn't getting to the ground. So we'll get into that in another topic, but this engine physically is all there. Okay, fuel mileage, it's on the lower side of things. You got to consider this thing is sitting on 34.5. I walked away from my 35s, and I'll make a video here soon. Yeah, anyways, so it has a little bit of offset. You know, my wheels have a little bit of a dish to them, you know, lip, so that all plays a role. You'd be surprised. That all affects your fuel mileage. My tires are not super aggressive, but they are AT3s, so that all equates. So that's why my fuel mileage is a little lower. But even on factories, even keeping all things the same, whatever Ram did on their latest update, they fine-tuned things, but they did not touch the MPG era. One of their updates, they gave me a lot better MPG, and it was quite noticeable. It was on the initial first update. Ever since I bought this truck, I had it for a few weeks, and then they had an update, and then my fuel mileage was 1.5 miles better, and it was notable. And then anyways, what I'm trying to say, the efficiency of this engine is just superb. Like, once they have this engine dialed in, it will just rock Power Stroke and Duramaxes. I know. It's all hearsay. It's all opinion. It's all about point of view. But just watch. So, from what I've grasped, from what I've put together, yeah, all the physical aspects. Now, as far as the fuel system goes, a lot of people are worried about it. You know, I don't have any reason. This fuel system has not given me any reason, any inconsistency, any issue thus far. You know, watching, I have this little dongle thing. I watch my desired pressure, actual pressure. You know, watch the injection and all that. It's not struggling a single bit. It has so much more to offer. It's like boom, 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 Johnny on the spot. Just like the Ford. You know, the Ford has a pretty tuned up fuel injection system, but the weak side on the Ford is that pump is just driven so hard to its limits, and a little bit of crappy fuel is what I've concluded on takes out those pumps, the CP4s. These only time will show, but this setup does fairly the same with a lot less, you know, perspective or in percentage, a lot less pressure, which really surprised me. So this fuel system has a lot more to offer. Guys, I'm shooting out of the hip. I think once the aftermarket unlocks this thing, I think we could be pushing 600 horse on a easy day. I don't know why I feel that way. It's just there's so much there, you know. The side draft intake, just get all there. If you want to come up with 5-inch piping, your head probably take advantage of that, right? It's such a phenomenal platform. So I can't say enough good things about this engine. You know, the cylinders, I have not pulled one of these engines apart, which is a good thing, right? I have not pulled one of these engines apart from my research. The internals are stout on this thing. You know, no one really pushed them, so nobody really knows their weak spots or what. Well, let's go first. But under a load, it just doesn't miss a beat. It's so smooth. So that tells me the combustion chamber, you know, temperatures. I haven't had extreme cold, but you know, what is it? Oh, it's already 35. It was 30 this morning. Just fires up just fine. There is a little bit of inconsistency in the lifters. It's like clockwork. It starts out a little louder, not like loud, but nitpicky Paul louder, and exactly 3 seconds later, they all go silent. I don't know if it's the lifters or if it's the fueling, you know, at what, you know, angle it's injecting them. So it does sound different for 3 seconds, and then it goes back to normal, and like simultaneously. It's not one cylinder here, there, one or two missy. Like the 19s, you know, you start them up on a cold start, it's kind of inconsistent, you know, onesie, twosies here inconsistently, and the rest of them are doing something else. So in short, all of them are kind of doing a little bit of different. That's the hydraulic lifters for sure on those 19s through 24s. But this, it might be the fueling or it might be the hydraulics. I don't know if it's something with the oil pump relief valve. They're just pushing a different PSI. I don't know what it is. Also, what I did notice, this pressure gauge is fairly accurate. I mean, when I'm cold, the PSI on this engine runs like a Cummins, you know, semi-Cummins, you know, very, very similar pressure in that oil. And one of these mornings, I was a bit in a hurry. I fired up, let it idle for maybe a couple minutes, and I took off, and I was just like, I'm curious what the oil pressure is on. And it got into the 80s. So this thing definitely shows actual oil pressure. I mean, my oil was in the 90s as far as Fahrenheit goes. Now, with that being said, I like it. I like it giving me real numbers, not hypothetical, not mathematical numbers, but actual numbers. You know, it's relatable. It's consistent in its own way. So yeah. Anyways, as far as power, with the updates and here and there, Ford is still in the lead as far as driving around empty, guys. But when it comes to loaded, heavy load, I mean, at its limit, what these trucks are capable and are loaded to the max, I still prefer Cummins. It does not leave anything to be desired when you're loaded heavy. Where Ram, you know, at this point doesn't necessarily drop the ball because they keep refining their updates and stuff. It doesn't compete with a Ford. When you're driving in traffic and all of a sudden you want to pop out and pop out meaning, you know, start overtaking vehicles or passing vehicles on a highway abruptly. It gets lost. It's better, but it doesn't compete with the Ford. Just going and stabbing that throttle, yeah, nowhere near Ford instant power and rocking you out of there. If you roll into it, it has good power, and as I said, they keep updating it, and it's not an engine thing, it's a tuning thing, and at any point it does not sound loaded up like the Ford. Let's talk about when it's loaded, right? You hear it pushing that edge, you hear the injection, right? You know, it's pushing. It's not pushing the limits, but it's up there, and you can start hearing valve train noise. This thing is just smooth. It's nowhere near that. But also, your oil doesn't skyrocket like the Ford does when I'm repeating myself, when you're going uphill and fighting extreme grades and going up extreme grades and fighting the terrain. Yeah, Ford climbs in temperature a lot faster. So that tells you that alone should tell you what you need to know as far as where it sits at. As far as tuning goes, is it fairly turned up, or is it very just out of line? And it's not. Ford got their trucks dialed in as far as that engine goes. See, I don't have as much experience with the Duramax. I can't tell you how great or bad they are, but you know, from a handful of trucks that I've been around and seen my buddies use them, they have that sweet middle. They're in their comfort zone. They're efficient enough, but they're not going out of their way like Ford and pushing them to a certain extent. Obviously, Ford's trucks are not pushed, but for a stock format, they're pushing envelope. I don't believe Duramax has what Ford as far as capacity to push it so much further. All around. I'm not saying hot rodding. I'm saying set up a number that works for hot rodding and towing heavy. Don't forget that towing heavy. It's a whole different ballgame when it comes to towing heavy. So anyways, this engine is leaps and bounds more capable. Well, I shouldn't say leaps and bounds. It's notable. It's at a greater percentage more capable of putting much higher numbers. In comparison to any of its competitors, it will take the lead at a more comfortable pace, at a more comfortable place as well. Meaning, you know, if you push the Ford to 600 horse, this thing to 600 horse, I feel like this truck would be more comfortable. I know you're going to say, Paul, well, at least get to 500 before we cover 600 because Ford's already at 500. Yeah, and you're right. But I don't know why I feel so certain about this engine. Just so consistent and smooth, you know? Just like the Ford. The Ford's consistent and smooth, but you hear valve train on the Ford. On this thing, you don't hear that. It's nowhere near its ability to come close. So yeah, the engine alone is what's making me hold on to this. I love the exhaust brake. That does not come close. And when you go for a test drive and you're like, you turn on the exhaust brakes and you're like this thing, right? Alrighty, what's Paul, you know, all hyped up about? Guys, this thing is a whole different beast. Excuse me, let me have a drink. I'm a bit under the weather. I've actually done pretty good coughing away on camera. But back to what I was saying. This thing is like hold my beer kind of scenario. You know, it gives you what it gives you. Like right now, if we scroll through it, it's giving you 45 horsepower. That's all mathematical. But the feel of the pants, you know, it's slowing you down. Now, let's say you had the same scenario with the trailer. You would get far more braking power out of that exhaust brake. So to really experience the exhaust brake, you got to hook up heavy, and it's just it's multi-dimensional. You're like, whoa, what are you doing? I'm not saying you're redlining. Yeah, it doesn't mind going up higher in revs, but just overall, the control that this exhaust brake has, this engine, the ability that it has just to keep everything in check and just have it all lined out is just, there's nothing that competes with it. Nothing on the market. Well, I said that a little too soon. Anyways, so overall, I wish these things came a little bit more power from the box, but I have a feeling, I'm 65% certain that within the next year, Ram will have these things dialed in fairly well, that there's not going to be much need for the aftermarket. And the reason I say that, I know y'all might laugh, but did you guys see what Ram did with their, here, hold on a second, let me have my coffee. They took that dually, or they gave that dually to Dave Sparks, I think that guy's name is, Heavy D, he goes by on his YouTube channel. Them boys turned it up, drag raced it, went to the sand dunes with it, and they're hot rodding the livings out of it. So if it goes through that, now if you haven't went to the sand dunes with some paddles on your vehicle, 4-wheeler, side-by-side Jeep, you guys know you need to carry some horsepower through that sand, because your booty ain't going anywhere with them paddles in like really soft sand. The softer the sand, the more horses you need, and some of you guys just never experienced that. I mean, even my T-Rex, I know, hang tight. My TRX, right? 700 horsepower, blah, blah, blah. Why do you need that? When do you need it? Guys, when it comes to sand, mud, even snow, even heavy snow, you need to throw. You need to plow. And that's when you need horsepower. So, what I'm getting at here with Dave and the crew, I think PPI tuned that truck. Well, assisted tuning that truck, whatever they did there. I know they're part of the PPI gave him ideas to the head engineers at Cummins, as far as my knowledge goes. And that boy likes to refine stuff, but he also likes to push things. So if it's hanging in there and going through all that beating and just lap after lap and hauling, and they're hanging in there, it's going to add a real world. So these engineers, they do mathematical formats and they equate and they say send it, right? But then you got guys in the real world that actually test these trucks, that actually work them, right? What I do is nothing really compared to some of these guys, what they put their trucks to, especially when it comes to off-roading, excavation companies. They go through mud and overload the livings out of their trucks. So those guys put their trucks through a whole different ringer. So with that being said, we're going to see more and more of these on the rise. You know, by the time the average public realized that the Ford Gen are solid trucks, I had numerous trucks, a lot of trucks in the 400 or 500 mile club, right? And it's not because I'm so smart or something. It's just I'm given the opportunity, I take it, right? I educate myself as my fleet rocks all these miles. So with that being said, I have a good feeling as soon as Ram figures out their electrical issues, I think we're gonna hit the green light on these, 25 plus. But I'm not buying a 25 for sure. Keep my fingers crossed for the 26s to have them all dialed in. Anyways, guys, as I said, it's gonna be a longer video, but as far as that engine goes, top to bottom, everything, it's about 80% new. I know it's at least 80% new, so I'm just going with that 80%. That engine has a lot to offer and it's completely revamped, so I'm very excited for the future of these engines. Can't wait for them to figure out their electrical gremlins. I'll make another video, what I think it is, and I'll go from there. Anyways, guys, may the good Lord bless you, and may you all have a mighty fine day.